It's time to go beyond with Hearthstone's next set. The Great Dark Beyond releases today, which means we're going to be showcasing 11 wacky lists that I came up for the day 1 meta with a wide variety of different playstyles. So you should be able to find something here for everyone. We're going to be starting with DK, using the 8 hands for Beyond as a way to destroy both players' decks, except for the 8 highest cards in each. Essentially, the game plan is this will allow us to mill our opponent out of their deck by using a combination of Maladar and Doom Maiden to cheat out whatever cards that we do steal off of the top of their list. We're also going to be using Kill Jaden to prevent ourselves to ever going into fatigue and hopefully get maybe additional copies of Doom Maiden or just bigger and bigger demons. It is also worth mentioning, I thought about doing maybe a Reno variant of this list, which might end up being the better way to do this, but this should be a lot of fun to try out. Now let's get on to the next list, which is going to be Big Demon Hunter using Kill Jaden as a way to get access to a bunch of additional demons through Umpire's Grasp. This will be a perfect curve combo between the two, allowing you to slam down Umpire's Grasp on turn 4, then use Kill Jaden on turn 5, then allowing you to have a infinite pool of demons that will get bigger each turn. We also are going to be using a bunch of draw power and the Starship package and Pirate package as an early game tool in case we don't draw into this combo early on. Now let's get onto the next list, which is going to be Thaddeus Copium Druid. Essentially, the game plan is we are going to be using Final Frontier as a way to hopefully, fingers crossed, get Thaddeus, because, you know, it wouldn't be a not video without a way to try to get access to Thaddeus, and there actually is about a 11% odds of getting Thaddeus on a single cast of Final Frontier, but we're going to be using the Starship package as a way to essentially get additional copies to make our lives a lot easier, and using a backup plan of the Taunt package using the new Star Grazer as a way to have a alternate win condition, because this does have taunt. Now for Hunter, we're going to discover a new way to play Egg Hunter using the new Discover package as a way to have a great amount of draw power in a class that historically is missing it, as we can easily replace our hero power to discover a random card from our deck, then using all of the eggs that are currently in Standard Hearthstone, such as the new extraterrestrial egg, as a way to do a bunch of damage to our opponent's face, and then have the backup plan of a big starship using the Starship package as Hunter, which is actually probably one of the stronger lists. And if that doesn't win out us the game, we do have Yelling Yodeler in combination with Mysterious Egg to get additional copies of King Plush. So let's get on to the next list. Now for Priest, we are going to be playing Starship Priest. I know, this sounds a little bit strange. However, it turns out if you build a huge starship, you can actually revive it off of Rest in Peace and Lesser Diamond Spellstone. Don't ask me how I know this. I may or may not have actually spent 300 gold just testing out this idea, even though I didn't have access to the Exodar. It is worth mentioning also with the Exodar, if you do get additional copies of this card, the first one you're probably always going to want to choose the option to give you a 1-cost copy of all the starship pieces that you used for the initial starship, as a way to just have an additional backup plan in case your opponent does something like a Reno Jackson, since he is going to be floating around. And you won't always be able to guarantee the fact that your starship that you build that is going to be humongous doesn't get destroyed by something like that. Though, if you do get multiple copies, you could also, in theory, just use it to hit your opponent's face for a bunch of damage using that option instead. Now let's get onto the next list, which is going to be Fire Elemental Mage. I know this is probably one of the least unique lists out of the bunch. However, I wanted to fit in some type of aggro deck, and I really love the idea of combining both Fire Mage with Elemental Mage, as that does seem like a really cool idea. Sarun is going to be our main win condition to give all our elementals in the deck +1 spell damage, using this in combination with the Overflow Surger as a way to get up to +7 damage. And then because some of the fire spells that exist currently, such as Solar Flare, discount themselves for each elemental you control, you should be able to then do 9 damage for 0 mana times 2, which should be incredibly strong. We also do have Supernova as a way to fill our hands with a bunch of 1-cost fire spells to be able to do even more damage. Now for Paladin, it's going to be Shafar Libram Paladin. Essentially the game plan of this list is we're going to be running the Libram package as a way to get a bunch of additional spells that can easily be repeated on a Shafar's spell burst. Then we're also going to be running a low-ish minion count in order to be able to easily draw into Wind Up Enforcer to get additional copies of that spell burst, and then hopefully charge into our opponent's face using a South Seas deckhand. This is probably one of the more unique ways you can do something with Paladin. I really wanted to do something with Lumia, but I couldn't think of anything, so here we are. Now let's get on to the next list, which is going to be Goldbeard Quasar Rogue. Essentially the game plan is we're going to be using Quasar to discount Goldbeard down to 2 mana. Then we're going to be using the Celestial Projectionist to give us an additional copy of Goldbeard, which will then allow us to do 25 points of damage to our opponent's face, and then in theory we could even get an additional copy after that. Overall, this is a really gimmicky way to build Quasar Rogue. Might not be the strongest, but it could be a lot of fun. Now let's get onto the next list, which is going to be OTK Murmur Elemental Shaman. Essentially the game plan is we're going to be using the Elemental package for early game, then swapping into the Murmur, into Shutterblock, into Kalamos, and Alexstrasza combo as a big finisher. This combo works because Kalamos actually counts as casting spells instead of being a direct damage from the Battlecry, thus making Shutterblock do 16 points of damage, and then Alexstrasza allows you to set your opponent's HP down to 15. So as long as they don't have armor, you should be able to easily win the game. Now for the next list, which is going to be Akama OTK Warrior. Essentially the game plan here is we're going to be using Akama and the ways to either give him rush or just make him attack through Exhibition Sergeant as a way to give our Grommash here either Wind Fury or Wind Fury times 2, essentially, making it very easy to overwhelm our opponent. We also will be using Black Rock and Roll as a way to buff up all of our minions, just to make them a little bit bigger and easier for the OTK, while relying on a relatively low minion count. And finally, for the last list, we are going to be doing Kara Excavating Warlock, centered around the new legendary Kara that steals 2 damage from a random enemy. And in theory, you can actually OTK by using a combination of this, Cursed Campaign, and Abduction Ray as your cheap shadow spell to make it where you will steal a bunch of HP from either your opponent's face or just from their board, making it very annoying for your opponent to deal with. We also will be using the Excavating package as a way to also steal some HP that way, since I thought that would be a perfect merger of the two ideas. Now, those were all the decks that I came up for the Great Dark Beyond for day 1. Let me know down below what class you're most looking forward to trying to use. The Kara list here is probably going to be one of the first ones that I showcase on the channel, but who knows? We'll see how it all plays out. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.